Yeah! I love your enthusiasm. Hi, welcome to the Nerd HQ. My name is Zachary Levi, if you don't know me already. Myself and my partner, David Coleman, we started a company called The Nerd Machine a few years ago because we believe in you. We believe in nerd culture, and we wanted to bring you a life brand, somewhere you could express yourself and say, I'm loud, I'm proud, and I'm a nerd. Yeah, rock and roll. And kind of as we were on that journey, we're like, well, Comic-Con's coming up. That's probably a good time for us to sell some shirts or something. And how do we do that? And we thought, well, why don't we go and do this? Why don't we go make an offsite thing where letting Comic-Con be the mothership and have big kick-ass panels with 5,000 to 10,000 of y'all in a giant room and giant stars. And, you know, in addition to that, we'll go do kind of a smaller thing, an intimate thing, one where I can see who's in the back row and I can see who's in the front row, and it's totally unmoderated, and you guys can ask whatever you want, but don't expect every answer to be what you want, exactly. But of course, the biggest thing about that was that giving you guys the opportunity to just buy your seat ahead of time and know that every penny of that goes to Operation Smile and changing kids' lives around the world. So this panel, no surprise whatsoever, this panel sold out in 3 seconds. I don't know, something like that. And by the way, for everyone who opted for your standing room tickets, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you. With your money on top of everything, we've raised over $5,000 just for this charity, just for this panel. So thank you, thank you. Oh, yes. This is why I have Dave, to remind me of certain things. So one of our sponsors, Vizio, is going to give you one of these. One lucky fan is going to get one of these televisions. Yeah, that's pretty dope, right? It's 55-inch 3D smart television. Actually, yeah.
Hey guys, I know some of you had moved around and you were in standing room and they put you in some chairs, and some people who were in seats who came in late have actual seat numbers. So if we call a seat number because that's what we do is we call out a seat number and that's who wins. If you got put in a seat that you were standing room, it's going to go to the person who actually has the ticket. Everybody understands that, okay? Everybody's got to be okay with that. We want to make sure you guys are good, okay?
Is that okay? All right, just checking. Hey, ask him for a number. Ask him for a number. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, could it be number 1? Probably not. 173, 173. Yes, you, sir. You got yourself a television. Yeah, just come see Dave afterwards, and we're just going to put it on your back. Awesome. We'll give you something, and you could do it. I don't even know how it works. Okay, so listen, I'm going to stop talking. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. But more than that, I want to thank this man before he comes out. We tried so hard to get him last year. You obviously know that this man is the king of the con. He is the king of the nerds. He is very, very busy during this weekend. We are so honored to have him, and we're so grateful that you guys get to share this time with us. Without any further ado, please welcome to the stage, Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon, ladies and gentlemen. Oh. Sorry, before you, I just to let you, is there any flash photography at this panel? No. Is there any video at this panel? No. You better keep it that way. Joss Whedon, everybody.
Hi, okay. First of all, I just want to say I had to abdicate. There was a hostile coup. I am no longer the king of the con because a lot of us have been coming here for so long, and not one of us has ever thought to do anything as cool or as useful as what Zach has done. And speaking for a lot of people, I want to say there's a new king. Or we'll rule as two kings, like Tenacious D. A king and a not so important king, but still a king. You guys actually paid to come here. That's terrifying. I feel like I can't just sort of blather on. I'm really gonna have to bring it. Airplane food. There's no such thing. So I am going to sit here. Sometimes I'll stand up suddenly. Is that okay for the camera if I do that? Also, I'm a little cold-hearted snake, so watch. You guys be ready. I don't know. Do they just raise their hands?
Yeah, just you guys. Okay. It's an unmoderated panel. It's all you. So raise your hands, and the volunteers will find you.
I will be inspecting your fingernails as well. So that will determine whether or not I choose you to speak. But you raised your hand first.
Oh, there you go. Right over there, Josh. Right over there.
What? Wait a minute. What?
Right over here, buddy.
Oh, they have a mic. You lost. You failed. See, already he has taken power from me.
All right, Joss. Dr. Horrible sing along the sequel. How's it coming?
Really well, actually. Thanks for asking. I was explaining yesterday at a panel. We finished the day before we came out here and delivered Much Ado About Nothing. I'm very, very psyched about. I cannot wait for you people to see how talented my friends are. They can say all those funny words in the right order and with inflection and all kinds of stuff. That night, I got together with Jed, Marissa, and Zach and had our first hardcore let's get it done meeting about Dr. Horrible. We already have a ton of songs. We got the whole thing laid out. We're just we're on the go track now. It's very exciting. There will not, however, be any questions where I will give involving any spoilers or math, even basic math. So let's be clear. Okay. Apparently raising your hand has nothing to do with it. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Just shout it. Shout it from the rooftops.
I have a writer question. Sorry. I have a writer question for you. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Ooh, sorry. I have a writer question for you. When you're in the zone and working on a script, what's your process? What's your day like? Do you never sleep and you just get it all done, or do you have an order day, or what's the deal?
Well, there's a great deal of writing the script where you're not in the zone. There's basically two zones. There's the first part when you're thinking of the idea, and I'm doing a lot of that now. Obviously, I have a little time to myself. Well, not right now, but. And you're just sort of, thinking of things you'd like to see or what. It's all very ephemeral and it's very lovely, and that's terrific. That's the zone. And that involves a lot of walking around and also watching things to steal from. And then there's actually figuring out the structure, which is horrible, painful labor. And that involves a whiteboard and pain and as many of your friends as you can exploit for free as possible. And then there's the third stage, which is the greatest zone, where you've got it all figured out and you're just living with the characters. And for me, I'm just wandering, and I'm always wandering. So I do this, and I just wander around, usually in a circle. And I don't know what you've seen on TV, okay? But you don't change directions, okay? You see someone do that, they're not really a writer. And just sort of live the conversation. I don't tend to write first drafts of scenes. I tend not to write anything until they're done talking. So I'm basically just listening to them go, and they're awesome. And then I write it down. It's beautiful. The rest is work.
Hi, Joss. I was wondering what particular directors or writers inspired you to do what you do.
Which writers inspired me? I like to think that it was incredible laziness that inspired me to become a writer, and my inability with the math thing. I'm having kind of a Marilyn Monroe moment here. It's a little unseemly. I apologize. The greatest writers for me to read. What's going on? Oh no.
We're full service around here. Full service, folks.
That's great, because everybody here is having a little 7-year itch going on. Dickens, obviously, not just Stan Lee, but the whole Marvel stable. the guys that don't get mentioned that often, like Steve Gerber and Roy Thomas and the people who write in the 70s, Steve Lang, just all of those guys, huge influence. I'm a fan of Shakespeare. I like a lot of things very much, but I'm going to have to say, my father and mother. My father was a professional writer. My mother spent all of her time when she wasn't teaching writing novels that were not published, but the sound of her typewriter is probably the thing that I treasure most in my head. And I remember it really well because when that sound was going, if any of us made any noise, she would kill us. So ultimately they read constantly, they wrote constantly, I was surrounded by writers. It was like I was raised by a troupe of comedy writers. It's like, I'm like Tarzan, only less civilized. And just having that around you, more than any other particular writer, is the thing that gets me. But I'm also going to say Frank Herbert. Okay.
I was wondering if you were aware of the Loki fandom, and if you anticipated that while you were making the Avengers.
The what do you now? I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing with the sound system. So the what do you fandom?
The Loki fandom.
Are you implying that some girls think that Loki is sexy? Well, I've hugged him. Awkwardly and for too long. Is there something particular about it besides the fact that Hiddleston is a stud and that the character's really cool and evil? Okay. I actually saw Tom in a production of Othello that Chiwetel Ejiofor did years before he got Loki. And he was playing Cassio, which is an incredibly unmemorable role most of the time. And everybody was like, who is that guy? First of all, he was like this, he looked like a crane. And he makes that impression. So no, I wasn't surprised when he got the part. I wasn't surprised when he blew the doors off every scene I gave him. And I wasn't surprised when the ladies all wanted Loki to get lucky. You got it. Okay.
Microphone. So I was wondering, since you got to write all these characters, if you've ever had an inkling of wanting to play the characters and take their costumes home?
This could be bad on so many levels. Are children watching this? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. We're going to skip the take the costumes home part and go directly to the I want to play every character. I always want to play every character. I am a super total wannabe. And I believe that that is actually really important for both a writer and a director. For a writer, if you're a wannabe actor, and there are certain reasons why I chose writing over acting. As a career, I own a mirror, and and I'm afraid of people. So writing seems to be also the most fun possible. But when you're a wannabe actor, you speak the speech. You don't just write down the words and go, okay, now say it. It's in your head. You're listening to it. You play I have gotten to play every part. Not all the outfits, maybe when I drop a few pounds, but I have played everyone because you have to. And what's great about that, what's actually useful about that is that you're speaking these sentences. And even, if you're writing television, sometimes I'll spend the weekend on a set writing a scene so I know how long it takes to get from A to B and how many words I can put between those, because you can be that specific. If I'm writing a fight scene, very often I will fall to the ground. If I'm writing a crying scene, I have to stop after 90 minutes because I have to stop crying. You get into it. And then when it goes to the actors, there's a lot of very cool sounding sentences that cannot be spoken by the human tongue, that just have a broken rhythm, that don't quite work. And if you've been saying it over and over in your head or out loud in an outfit, then when the actors get it, it's usually much better for them. For directing, the wannabe thing goes way beyond acting. I think it is a director's job to secretly wish they had everybody else's job. Not to think that they're better at it, but just to really wish they could do it. Because I want to be the costumer. I want to design the props. I want to be the stunt guy. I want to do all their jobs. And if you don't want to do their jobs, then you don't really care about what they're doing, and it's going to slide, and people are going to notice. So, yeah, I am. I want to play some parts. I'd like to be Spike. Or as we now call him, Loki.
Hi, I'm Marcia from Whedonopolis.com. Quick question regarding Dr. Horrible 2. Will you be releasing it as a feature or a web series, or have you not made up your mind yet?
We're thinking acrylic painting. I'm always challenging myself. We don't know. We really don't. But it's very important to us to keep the ethos of what we did before. So our first instinct is to try and create it on the same terms and deliver it in the same fashion. That's how we're building it in our minds. But we're always keeping ourselves what we refer to as sort of not just media, but budget agnostic, where we're just in the act of creating, just making sure the songs hit, the story works, the actors are available, and all the things that we need to do, and then we'll get to that. But we're very firm about what that meant besides being an entertainment. We made it during the strike as a way to say that we could work without the giant corporations that were trying to squeeze the unions out of existence, and it's really important. And there was a moment where because we don't know the technology, we didn't really know the world that well, where we almost lost our way and sort of caved into a more traditional way of releasing Dr. Horrible. But I'm happy to say Felicia Day was in the house, and she stepped in and said, I thought that we were trying to do this. And since she knows everything, because she's a robot from the future, she sort of helped us. And so, yeah, we don't know for sure exactly how it's going to be, but that's what we want to do. We want to continue to make the statement that Dr. Horrible himself was so bad at making.
Hi. Over here.
Hey.
Congratulations on Avengers.
Thank you.
But I wanted to thank you for Buffy. Forever and ever. Sorry, I cry a lot. I can't believe this is so embarrassing. Anyway, I read yesterday that Avengers 2 wasn't a lockdown for you. What would make it a lockdown for you? Because I want to see that.
I'm sorry, was it what for me?
What would make Avengers a lockdown for you to work on? Because I want to see that.
Avengers 2.
Avengers 2, yeah.
I'd need some Avengers. I think it'd be weird if it was just a bunch of Defenders or X-Men. I think that would be wrong. I honestly, obviously, there has to be another story to tell. It can't just be a convenient thing with a release date. It has to be worth doing, not just as well, but better. Because if you're not trying to do that, then why are you doing it at all? I haven't really. For you guys, it's been a couple of months since that movie came out. For me, a heartbeat. I don't really know where I am or what's going on, or I think this is a nightmare. And am I naked? Are any of you my ex-girlfriends? More than we'll admit. No. So I don't know, but I would say that the most important thing is going to be, do we have more to say? Because it's a huge amount of work if you're not saying something. And if you're not saying something, it's just bricklaying. It's just work. There's no zone. There's no happy place.
Hi, my name is Bree. I was wondering if you had any new ideas for any new shows that you plan on doing, or...
I don't think you're very aware of my work, but it's very clear from the comic books, the movies, and all the other things that I just run the old ideas into the ground, okay? No, actually I do. And I'm going to tell all of them to you right now. No. Just the ex-girlfriends. We'll meet up later. Yeah, I really do, actually. What I don't have is that, oh, Hollywood, you're paying attention now? Well, I happen to have this script. I don't have that. I have a bunch of things that are, I'm still in that first stage of the ether where they all seem really cool, and I don't know which one is going to be next, which is very exciting. I'm going from here to London to meet with Warren Ellis, to start really booting up Wastelanders as well, and we're working on Dr. Horrible. Those are for sure, but then beyond that, I have a bunch of stuff. It's all really good, I think, but I can't tell you anything about it. You just have to believe me. You have to trust me.
We always trust you.
Right over here. Hi. Speaking of the new ideas and stuff, have you thought about returning to sitcoms in any way?
Sitcoms. I come from a long and distinguished line of sitcoms. My father wrote them and his father before him. And I don't really... The one thing I loved about sitcoms, like multi-camera sitcoms, was that you just didn't have to write any stage directions. You could just write all the jokes and leave, because I'm that lazy. But I found that I was more attracted to the long form. They have melded so much. I mean, when I was coming up, it was the days when they were first trying single camera. They were doing Molly Dodd and Slap Maxwell and good shows that were just not quite hitting. The first Parenthood, which I worked on, which had an amazing cast and amazing writing staff, but everyone was like, it's half an hour of a single camera. That will simply never work. Now, there's not really that distinction. And so they'd be fun, but I'd be very surprised if I found myself creating one, because they're very seldom as fantastical as I like things to be. I don't have enough life experience to write about actual things, so I need them to have like wings and spaceships and bells and whistles.
Hi. You obviously have an amazing body of work, and...
Thanks. What I do is, in the morning... No,
I got $1.
I think I heard that wrong.
I'm wondering if you have a particular genre of storytelling that you prefer. I mean, you've done documentaries, you've done sci-fi, you've done action. Is there something that you would like to explore further, or something that has surprised you in that work?
Well, I don't think I've gone far enough. The one thing that I haven't been able to film, because the answer is everything, so I have to choose by what dream I haven't realized yet, and that's dance. That's really not me dancing. I've already mastered that. But filming like a film musical that's really about movement. I'm hoping to get in on the Step Up franchise, maybe like number 7, Step Up to the Retirement Home. That's really cool. I've fallen and I can't step up. But no, that is a musical. My heart belongs there very much, and so that would be first on the list today.
Hi. I was wondering what superhero story really inspires you the most right now?
Inspires me now?
Yes.
Are you talking about like a current one, superhero story? Or like
any superhero story ever?
Any superhero story ever. Okay, that narrows it down. Okay. I feel like I should say The Odyssey, because that would be deep. But then there might be a follow-up question and you'd find out that I haven't read it. So, gosh, that's a tough one. But it's going to come back to Kitty Pryde. I'm sorry. It does. because she was, she was the avatar for a lot more of us that admit it. And I should probably admit it less often.
Joss, over here to your left.
Hey, wow.
Hey, thanks for being here today.
I feel like the first Batman. I have no peripheral vision. I'm Batman. Or apparently RoboCop. I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
I read that your first cut of Avengers was about 3 hours, and I'm curious, are we going to see that footage in maybe like a Blu-ray release? And then also, how did you decide to cut out, 40 minutes of footage?
I didn't know it was going to be 3 hours when I shot it. I'm going to grab some water here because I'm starting to sound a little hilarious. Talk amongst yourselves. You gave me trick water, hard water. Oh, that's vodka. Okay, start again. Ask me that again. That way they can cut this out. Right, the 3 hours. Basically, yes, there were things in the movie that I thought were necessary that we learned were not. And basically, most of it is the perspective of non-Avenger people to what's going on and sort of little other story, little through lines for other characters. And there was a bunch of stuff for Steve Rogers, sort of like not relating to the world. And when I was writing it, I felt very strongly that I needed it to keep the human perspective because I didn't think the Avengers were gonna bring that. But then when we looked at the cut, they really were. People saw in them what they needed to see of humanity suffering. So I trimmed a lot of that out. I had a whole prologue thing with Maria Hill that I did because I felt from the start that I wanted to make this a war movie. That was the very first time I ever said, I actually do want to do this. I said, I see this as a war movie. You can't just have a knockdown, drag out with a bunch of superheroes. Because that's too clean, it's too easy, and I have too many superheroes. The only thing bigger than these guys is going to be war. So that's the kind of film I wanted to make, and in order to do that, I wanted to set it up with basically a flashback structure wherein it had happened, something bad went down, we don't know what, because the thing that war movies all have is you don't know if the people you're watching are going to live, but you know there was a war. You know something horrible happened, and I thought, well, these guys are going to spend a lot of time building as a team. I want to say up front, something horrible is coming. As it turned out, I didn't need to, and they wanted to get to the Avengers so much faster that, that fell on the floor. There was nothing that we took out that didn't mean an enormous amount to me, and I didn't love when I shot it, and there's nothing that we took out that we shouldn't have taken out. One thing I will say about Marvel, they don't squeeze. Most studios will squeeze. They will try to get, you left a small human moment in there. We gotta get rid of that, or, it won't fit in the frozen section of the DVD store if it's not packed in enough. And I kept expecting things to get cut out that, besides these bits, that, really held the texture of the movie, and they weren't. So it wasn't like I was being browbeaten. I was looking at it going, this is what I thought, and this is always the case in a movie. Some of what you think you need, you don't. And then some of what you thought you didn't need, you go shoot later.
I wanted to say first, thank you again for visiting with everyone who was camping out the other night for the panel. We really appreciate it. It was very special.
My need for attention is so pathetic, it's amazing. No, it was so sweet. You guys, it was amazing. You guys were camping out. What up? That's crazy.
My question for you is about Much Ado About Nothing. How, with all of the works of Shakespeare, with the plethora of works that there is out there, did you choose Much Ado About Nothing?
Few things. It's very easily translatable. I didn't even realize it when I chose it. It's all prose. And so it reads in a very modern fashion. It's very relatable for modern audiences. It really is, the mama of all romantic comedies. Although there's also a darkness to it, sometimes. There was a couple of things. I wanted to shoot something sort of light. it has one location, so I shot it at my house. So I didn't have to get a location. But probably the most important reason, besides the fact that I actually figured out how I would do it and what I would want to say, is that years ago, we had a Shakespeare reading in my backyard, and Amy and Alexis had read those parts before, and I knew that if I was ever going to film anything, it was going to be them.
Hi, back here, the back. Hi, thanks again for having us. First off, it'd be really hard to make a sequel, but how about Cabin in the Woods, the prequel? And then...
Or the equal. It goes on at the same time.
And then I was just wondering, what are some of the things that you're reading and watching these days that you're really into that you could share with the crowd?
You know, I have not read for pleasure, nor watched an entire episode of television in a long, long while. However, sometimes when I have trouble sleeping, I turn to Archer. And because there are so many life lessons. It's really, I think it's the wonder years for our generation. I'm trying to, I have a stack of things. It's like my entire life now is like The Wire. You know how The Wire is basically the new War and Peace. It's the giant tome on your shelf that you mean to get to, that everybody's really pissed you haven't because it's a classic, but it's gonna take a while to get into it once you start it, and you're just, any minute now. I mentioned that to a friend of mine, and they're like, yeah, but The Wire is awesome. I'm like, so is War and Peace. It's really, you just gotta you gotta make the commitment. But now that's with everything. There's so many shows I wanna watch. So I got nothing. I got Archer.
Yeah, hey Josh, thank you very much. My question was two-part. First of all, what's it like, the process of working with your brothers? I'd like to know about that, and from when you were younger to kind of growing up, is that something you've always done? Have you been close and worked with them? And the second part is, what was your inspiration working with Drew Stoddard and behind Cabin in the Woods? I mean, where did you come up with that? It seemed to be a labor of love, to say the least.
Yes. Love and mutilation. Drew Goddard and I, we share a fairly demented sensibility. He's the guy who told me about Archer in the first place. And first time I watched Archer, I said to Drew, this show seems like something you mumbled in your sleep. I mean, it's so you. It's very, his subconscious is just horrible. It's a horrible place. I don't actually know where the idea came from because I just had it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, there's the whole movie, boom. But I also know that Drew was the only guy that I could make that with because he was the only guy who would understand that there would have to be a unicorn. Goring a guy to death with its beautiful white horn. And so once you know that about a person, then it's go time. With my brothers, we're actually half brothers, and one of them is, Jed is 11 years younger than me, Zach 15 years younger than me. So I used to actually work with them because I would make little home movies. I'd come back from film school in college and be like, okay, you're 8, come on, we're gonna make a noir. And I mean, I was doing all kinds of things I shouldn't have been in. But then, then they went off on their ways, and we didn't work together at all until the strike. And we were nervous as kittens, all of us, that we were gonna either tear each other apart or, like with Drew, it's so organic that it's almost like writing alone. We just, you accept that every now and then I get more surprised and intimidated. We have a real extraordinary rapport, and this also applies to Marissa. Jed's wife and, an extraordinary writer. We just, it's a room full of equals that I get to be in charge of. And it's, I spend a lot of time building writers' rooms. You go through a lot of writers trying to find your team, and we fell into step, and a lot of that had to do with our sensibilities being similar and our influences, because the one writer who was my absolute greatest influence that I forgot to mention was, of course, Stephen Sondheim. And Jed and I can pretty much just talk in a language that other people will have no idea what we're saying, and build a song through that. So it's very organic. It's kind of beautiful, actually.
Hi. Hello? Magic. one of the reasons I really loved your work was the comedy, the humor. Are there any comics or comedians that you would love to work with?
You know, there are many. And in fact, for Much Ado, I hunted down Ricky Lindholm from Garfunkel and Oates and Nick and Brian from Britannic. I basically just cold called them, like, will you come and be in my movie? Because I'm a fan of you. And that led to, of course, my illustrious acting career as a poop coach. So, very proud of that. And I got to work with Patton Oswalt on Dollhouse, which I still give myself enormous credit for because I had never seen him act. I had only heard some of his albums, and I was like, this is the guy. He should play this part. He's going to own this part. And I don't know why I knew that, but I was totally right. He was so good on that show. I would love to work with him again. I watched him. He did a gig on Thursday night. I got to go see here at San Diego. He's phenomenal. Bo Burnham and Mike Birbiglia are two guys that I listen to a lot. I used to listen to comedy albums a huge amount as a kid, and because back then we didn't have anything else. And I've come back to it, and I'd like to thank LA traffic for bringing me back to my roots, because it's the only thing that keeps me from killing human beings with my car when I'm on the 405.
Hi. I was wondering, Avengers is combining four different movies, and it had so much hype leading up to it. Was there ever a point where you felt like it was just too big, it was too hard to manage everything?
Before I started went, oh, wow, it's big, it's large, big movie. It's like, I could see its fin in the water coming towards me. And, and my wife just set me straight. She was like, Joss, it's just the next story. And I was like, boom, great, no problem. And no, after that, never. Because ultimately, it is just the next story. You have a set of problems that I've had so many times. Oh, the actor isn't available that day. Oh, the set isn't built yet. Oh, we can't get here. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, I'm writing while I'm editing, while I'm shooting. I mean, it was basically like running a show. So, when you're running a show, you're in the process of telling at least 8 stories at the same time. And so weaving them into one is a little harder, but very similar. Also, I'm super studly. However, I will say that I have this tendency to be like, I was not bothered at all, and I'm not. I'm totally good, I'm in charge, I'm calm, and I know what I'm doing. I can't sleep, and my entire right side has seized up. But apart from that, no, it's good, let's go, come on, we're gonna take that hill, man. So my body is just terrified of everything that happens, but I seem to be fine.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, do you plan on doing any more writing for the Runaways?
Writing for?
For the Runaways.
I don't have any plans to write more Runaways right now because I am too tired. But that was one of the most fun experiences for me ever because Brian K. Vaughan is a master and was very sweet to me about taking it over. I love that book. I love that cast. And I got to do so much historical research to create the 1907 version of the Marvel Universe. And in fantasy, some people do a lot of science research, a lot of things. Every now and then you sink your teeth into it, but usually it's just like, you make it up. He's a Gloompi demon, they can all hop, whatever, it's your stuff. So really getting into the history of that, I loved that piece so much. And because every single character in that universe is based on some little reality of history or some phraseology or some belief, and except for like one that I just made up. Oh yeah, dead George Pelham. That guy's just a zombie.
Hi, it's Harry Clore. Kevin and Brian and I had a question, which is, you're a master storyteller. Would you ever have any interest in doing Dune?
Dune?
Yes.
Wow, it's never occurred to me. I am not, again, it's weird coming from the guy who keeps shifting mediums. I'm not the adaptation master. I have one in my head that I read in one sitting when I was 15 while eating these cinnamon candies that were like the spice. It was like I was eating the spice. But I remember seeing the movie and going, well, I don't want him to make it, but I didn't think, oh, I want to do this. That very seldom happens because when a great novel to me, it's gotten a little better, but usually a great novel doesn't make a great movie. Usually you're looking for something else for a movie, and so I haven't really thought about it, but now you've made me think about it, and now I'm thinking about it. Okay, I'm done. Cool. But I'm not thinking about Ender's Game because I still have no idea how they're going to pull that off. I mean, I'm excited to see, but that one, that's crazy talk. Okay.
Hey, Joss, my name is Brad. I asked you a question in the Dark Horse panel last year about you do a lot of strong women, several lesbian characters, and I said, you ever thought about doing a gay male character? And you said you actually did have a specific thought about that at one point, but then never followed through, and you thought, maybe now is the time. And I know you have a million other projects on your plate, like perhaps Avengers too, but ever thinking about following through on having a gay male character in the Buffy universe?
Yes.
Yes.
We've
an out character, I guess I should say.
Sorry?
An out character, I guess I should say.
Yes. I was thinking about a particular story that wasn't in the Buffy universe, but there has also been some talk about doing something in the Buffy universe. But again, I cannot get spoilery about it. But yes, it's still, sorry? Okay, are you telling me to wrap it up?
I'm saying it's still in progress. That's great.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were like Bill Conti and the Oscar orchestra going, get the fuck off, leave. The thing is, it's an element of something. You need more than that. You need more than, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. You need more than an agenda. You need the story to come organically, and then you need to think up the outfits. So.
Hi, Josh. Thank you for being here. On a personal note, I met my girlfriend in a midnight line at Walmart for Buffy Season 6. So, it's amazing to actually be able to tell you that part. Two quick things. First off, Avengers 2 would be awesome, but I could see you doing Guardians of the Galaxy much easier. I think you'd be able to handle that story, and I don't know if anybody else would. But there's a lot of people going around, like Kevin Smith, releasing movies and touring with them, the guys from Repo and Devil's Carnival. Is that something maybe you'd look at in the future for like Dr. Horrible 2 or anything like that?
I'm sorry, right after Kevin Smith, I stopped being able to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where they release their movies, they tour with them, the guys from Repo and Devil's Carnival, Kevin Smith, with stuff like that.
We've actually talked about that, potentially with Much Ado, if we don't, land a distributor or something. There's definitely so many different ways to go about it, and the homebrew is a very powerful drink for me right now. It's really, Dr. Horrible was the most fun that I ever had until Much Ado. So those things and these ways of getting them out there that are not the sort of set ways. Because the only thing about, honestly, I've worked with great studios, but it's, and I've worked with a network too. And the only thing that is they're so long ball on the game. They're like, this is the most magnificent thing. We can't wait to show it to people 3 years from now. And you're just like, I'm impatient. I don't like that. So I'm very interested in doing that kind of thing. I just haven't figured out which is going to be for what, when, next.
Thank you.
I was wondering if we could go back to Buffy for a moment. About the character of Xander. About once every season or two, he would show a definite dark side, like not telling Buffy about the spell, and then once more feeling he basically gets away with manslaughter about 4 times with no repercussions. How did you feel about him having that sort of darker tone that just occasionally popped up? Most of the time he's this great guy, but then occasionally it's sort of like Dark Xander pops up out of the Phoenix.
that moment where he didn't give the message to Buffy was like, it's so silly, I sound so silly. It was a pivotal thing for me because it wasn't evil. I don't even think it was wrong. It was just like, he lied. And like, in a crucial thing to one of his best friends about something very important. And I was just like, oh, wow. I don't know how I feel about this, except that it makes me feel awesome because he made him human. It made him a person with his own agenda. There is nobody who is always affable and delightful. And in fact, if somebody is too affable and delightful all the time, you gotta wonder what's gonna happen when they pop. And Xander was the beginning of something for me as a writer that I've pursued much more since, of just, it's fine, it's great, we're all that, he's a good guy, you can trust him, but guess what? Sometimes we fail, and sometimes, the humor, some self-deprecating humor comes from rage. I don't know if you knew that, but, I think that he's always been able to walk a fine line with that, and that's something we're actually pursuing in season 9 in the comic as well. And it excites me because it makes me feel close to him. It makes him human. Also the manslaughter thing, because what? I wasn't drunk. I just, driving around. Well, anyway.
Hey, hi, Joss. First, thanks for organizing this. It's amazing. Joss, you have done incredible storytelling with a lot of great universe. I know that you're continuing Firefly on comics. Have you ever thought of doing a Firefly video game?
Firefly?
Video game.
Very much. And I actually ran into Cliff Bleszinski last night, and we were like, we gotta do Firefly. Yeah, we're not sober. I think it lends itself to a game. There was a lot of talk about doing a multiplayer, and a massive one, and there was competing companies, and I took all these meetings, and then I turned around and it had just sort of all disappeared, and I don't know why, because I think that verse is so ready for serious gaming, because there are so many things, there's so many worlds, so many kinds of ships, so many things to achieve, so many people to be, so many things to do besides killing, but a lot of killing. No, I'm all for it. That's one thing where I think they would be perfect mates. But I don't have that kind of money, so I'm just always waiting for somebody who does to come and say, okay, let's go, I have the rights. And they'll walk like this. Because, they'll be from the 30s. When they walk like that, they do. Because of rickets.
We got time for a couple more questions right here on the left here, Jess.
Hi, Jess. I know that you said before you started Much Ado About Nothing, you were supposed to go on vacation. So my question is, what keeps you constantly creating and keeps you from really, it sounds like, ever getting lazy?
It's funny. People love the term workaholic, but nobody ever really uses the term workaholism. I wish I were kidding. It makes me very twitchy if there isn't some kind of creation or some kind of advancement, culmination, learning something, doing something, but more than anything else, making something. I had been working on Avengers nonstop. I had been living in Albuquerque for over a year, just doing nothing but working. It was a month and 2 days after we wrapped that we started shooting Much Ado. And we shot for 10 days, and then we had 2 extra days the next weekend. And I came back to work like I'd been sitting on a beach, so ready to go and full of energy. It feeds me. And you can't be around the kind of creative energy that the people I work with possess and not be fed. You can't do a scene with Reed Diamond and Clark Gregg and not come away just with your head blown off. I mean, it's so glorious. So there's, but it is also a problem. It is also a thing wherein I don't really understand about relaxing, or being there for my friends. Apparently, first you have to make friends, and then when they have a problem, you have to be somewhere. I'm reading about it, and it is an actual issue. There's a distance between you and the world that actual other holics share, wherein you're in your comfort zone. You're doing the thing that gives you comfort. Luckily, it's slightly less harmful than other things. It's creation. But sometimes I think, I need to get in the world. I need to get out of bed, get a hammer and a nail, that kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, sometimes I think, no, I should just live in my head and create more stuff. Clearly, this is a problem for me because I'm still talking about it. So let's move on.
Hi, Josh. I was wanting to know, you kind of are known for killing your characters.
And we're in.
And I was just wondering, when you start writing, do you have an idea if you're going to kill somebody, or is it just happen while you're writing? And like, how do you decide, I want this person to die? Does it serve a purpose? And which character like to pick?
You know, it's, you know, you love to kill, and then but like, is it a musical, or is there a spaceship? I know I want to kill this guy. No. I've openly said that I get a little cranky about this question. No offense. Because, I would like, always to mention the percentage of people who die is a lot. I think it's pretty near everybody. The percentage of people that I kill, not so many. I think the reason that my rep is so nasty is that I tend to do it unexpectedly, or to someone people are recently invested in. And that is a real mission statement for me, because death doesn't leave a card. Death doesn't take Hitler. Okay, it doesn't, it doesn't work according to story plans. And when a death feels like a loss, gives you grief, then you have told a story that involves death. It is a completely different thing and then the hero says, no, I'm not gonna kill you, but think about what you've done. And then he walks away, and then the villain pulls out the smaller gun that he has, and the hero turns around and kills him, boom. Oh, it's okay, that's the convenient movie death. That's great, oh, the bad guy died. But that isn't anything like the experience of death in life. So if I have this reputation, it's because I'm doing something right. And not something great, but it's something right.
We got time for a couple more. We're going to squeeze it out.
Joss, you talked yesterday about how important Tim Minear was to writing Firefly, and I'm just wondering how, when you pick your writers, how you pick them and how you divide up the work when you're doing that.
How do you divide up the work? Every team, obviously the Firefly team, I had Tim and I had Gene. I had some people that I had worked with before, and then I got really lucky with the rest of the team. You find out people's strengths early on, basically, in the room. And we were talking a little bit about this with the fact that Jose could actually structure a plot way better than the rest of us. And that doesn't mean he couldn't write emotion or come from character. It just meant that he had those building block skills that are really important for a lot of storytelling that some of us are not as facile with. And some people are rock stars in the room. My brother Jed brought him on to Dollhouse with still more trepidation. What is it going to be like? And suddenly he's going toe to toe with Minear. I've never seen anybody do that. I mean, it's, and those people in a room are incredible. And then some people, they never say a word, but then they turn in a draft and you're weeping. They've totally nailed it. So you just you feel everybody out. And it's like with your cast. If you find, wow, this guy's really good at comedy and that's not what he's playing, we're going to throw something his way. Oh, they can sing. Let's do that. You sort of, you find it out. And there can be a lot of triage. A lot of people came and went on Buffy who seemed like a perfect fit. But by the end of that, the team I had was so stellar. And then the other thing is you just keep hiring people over and over again if they'll still work for you, because then you don't have to meet new people, which, as I explained earlier, is a problem for me.
All right, it's the last question. No pressure whatsoever.
Has to be the best, though.
Who's got the mic?
Hello. Hi, Joss. My question is on Avengers. After 2 kind of mediocre Hulk movies, how do you make Hulk like the coolest character on the Avengers?
Definitely not the worst question. I appreciate that a lot. Incredibly hard work is part of the equation. The moment that Mark and I sat down together to talk about whether or not he wanted to do the part, we got into a discussion about rage and what it really meant. And the very last shots that were delivered were Hulk shots. And the entire time we were doing it, in between, was a process of trying to get it right. And that meant getting his performance right, figuring out who Bruce Banner was, and we both instantly said, well, it's clear he's Bill Bixby. He's helping other people. He's the fugitive, but sometimes he's bigger. And, he's not so focused on his own problems. That was a big thing. And then Mark is one of the most extraordinary actors, an incredible mensch, and it just bleeds through onto the screen. You just can't not know that. But when he just makes his scary face, oh, yeah, he's just terrifying, and it's great because he can, he's just making a face. He's not really mad at me, I don't think. And I got to wrestle with him too. We actually put down some mats and we wrestled because we were trying to figure out how would the Hulk fight, and that was really fun. And then I worked a lot with the animators after the performance capture stuff to sort of take it further and really get that iconic feeling from the Hulk that, I felt the first one doesn't look bad for that time. It's really a question of what's motivating him. What's pissing him off now? How do we keep that intensity up? That was a big thing for his physicality. The second movie, I just felt like, he was surfing. I mean, he was just like ripped, he had long hair, and it's just like, Hulk smash. You're like an abomination. But the Hulk is a particular problem, and I'm sorry, I'll wrap it up.
No, take your time. I think we should let him take his time, right?
Okay. Basically, not just the physicality, but the Hulk is a very difficult problem because he's not really a superhero. He's more of like a universal horror movie. He's the werewolf. And... but he's also an Avenger. Does that make sense? No. Did it make sense in 1963? It did not. Part of the joy of this movie was like, wait a minute, none of this makes any sense. This is going to be fun. So the structure of how he appears in the movie was done very specifically to... Because one of the things that they always did was like, oh, no, I feel myself changing around a bunch of evil bullies who deserve to die. What will happen? Please don't let me change. And then he's just like the guy who's standing in the way of the Hulk, and that's annoying and convenient. So the structure of doing the first Hulk sequence as a horror movie, specifically where there is a damsel in distress, a person that we care about that he wants to kill, that he is actually angry at before he's the Hulk, was very important. And then the second time, when he's being the hero version, it was important that he had made the decision to change, that he sort of let himself go. And then we got to have the other thing that I felt the Hulk movies didn't quite get at in the same way that I wanted to, which is the joy of it, just the childlike joy. Because rage has so much delight in it. When you really let yourself go, it's an incredible feeling. And then afterwards, it's shameful and it's awful, and you have these enormous purple shredded pants, and you're like, that just seems weird. I don't like purple. But during, there's the part of the thing that makes the Hulk so much fun is that you're a little bit having a good time when you're losing your shit. And then I think the last thing was because we did the Loki thing. Sorry. I don't mean to boast, but that shit was hilarious.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Joss Whedon.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, guys.
Would you do me a favor? Can you come stand on the stage with me? Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Yeah. Ladies and thank you guys so much for joining us for this conversation. Thank you for all the money you've raised in this panel. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the con. Spend time with us here at Nerd HQ. You'll be exiting out those doors to your left. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.